Quiet, please. Quiet in the house, please. Thank you very much. It's 10:03. It is time to have our annual town meeting. Is this microphone okay for people now? You can hear me? Sounds good. Okay. My name is Buzz Eisenberg, and as town moderator, I'll be chairing today's meeting, and welcome to 2025 Ashfield Annual Town Meeting. No quorum is required by our bylaws. It's going in. I don't know. No quorum is required, so I hereby call us to order. Please note the 4 fire exits, should we need them. That one I think is even louder, so I'll see how it goes. Obviously, it's our county clerk, Alexis Federico, worked hard to get us sound systems that work. For some reason, this is not an accommodating place, and we always seem to have an echo, and I do apologize for that. But we're trying, especially for anyone who has hearing challenges, we've ordered some devices that will operate with your hearing aids if you wear them, so that you can hear the proceeding in your hearing aids. I want to thank you, Clerk Federico. If any of you are not registered voters of the town of Ashfield, I ask you to sit on the flanks. There are benches on the east and west side of the hall here, and you're permitted to participate and with leave of the meeting. Speak, so long as you don't vote if you're not a registered voter in Ashfield. I hope everybody has the handouts. Obviously, most importantly is the warrant, which contains the articles which we'll be addressing. A lot of the motions are going to be moving articles as written, so if you don't have them to look at, you won't quite know what we are discussing. So I urge you to go out and get a warrant if you haven't done so already. There are also handouts, some important handouts for Article 9, which will involve the schools, and Article 10, which will involve the Franklin County Regional Council of Governments. There are handouts which we're going to take a look at there, and there are handouts with respect to our budget, which will be very informing as we discuss each of these articles. Traditionally, we advance Article 1 before other matters in order to open the polls downstairs and begin the ballot voting downstairs, so those waiting to vote can cast their ballots and then join us up here. Is there a constable here? Is there a constable to report on the condition of the ballot box?
Yes, myself and the election warden checked the box. It's empty. The numbers are the 0. And as far as I'm concerned, polls are open.
For those who didn't hear or in the video, we just got a report from our constable, Patrick, that in fact the box is empty and the count is on 0. So all those does anybody need for me to read all the candidates and the questions that are going to be on the ballot? Okay, then I'll ask for a motion to open the ballot.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes.
I move the article as written.
Thank you very much. Mr. Goodman. Go ahead.
Sorry?
Did you have something else to say?
No.
Oh.
No, he's seconded.
Oh, that was Mr. Olenek seconding it. Thank you very much. Any discussion?
David Gold, 183 Wiltshire. Technical question. If the tree warden ballot measure passes, will that then result in an appointment for fiscal year 26, or will our election of the tree warden, or will the election of the tree warden this year be for this year, and the appointments will be for FY 27?
It would be for FY 27, so this elected position would just go through the next year.
Thank you, and I'm really glad that Cole asked that question. I have received, I think, 6 or 7 phone calls from people who want to speak to one of the 5 questions that are on the ballot downstairs. I think you know that it is illegal in Massachusetts to argue about a candidate on a ballot or a question on the ballot within 150 feet of the polling place. We are vertically within 150 feet of the polling place. So people who want to speak about like needs or their feelings, their passions about things, bless you. I'm glad that you have those passions, but you may not use this forum to debate what's going on downstairs. So downstairs is where you vote. For example, the Lake Weed one, that's a non-binding question. If we're going to be asked, the time to debate it may come later. Any questions about that? So I'll cut you off if you start to talk about what's going on downstairs. It's inappropriate and illegal. And 2 towns were sanctioned for it. That's you. I'm going in now. So, all those in favor of opening the polls downstairs, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. At this time, it's my pleasure. Every year I stand up here and people look at me as if I'm responsible for bringing us to this moment. In fact, anything but. The people that you're looking at the front table and many others are responsible for bringing us to this moment each year. And I'd like to introduce them. The first right here is, they had name tag. Paul McClatchy III, our town administrator. Alexis Federasenko, our town clerk. Tom Carter, Select Board Vice Chair. Steve Goodgen, our Select Board Chair. Todd Olenek, our Select Board member. We also have Ben Martin, the Chair of our Finance Committee, without a name tag. Oh, it fell on the floor. Laura Pitter, Finance Committee. Paul Lasinski, Finance Committee. And Tyler Carter, Finance Committee. Why do you get a yellow card? There's no way to thank them enough for the work that they do. They spend so many hours on behalf of each and every one of us here, and I know I feel I'm grateful. I'm also grateful for the volunteers to be tellers that they've been sworn in. Yes, they have been sworn in. Ina Kohler, Ron Kohler, Martin Eisenberg, Judy Al, Nancy Hobb, and Tom McCrum. Thank you so much. If we need their assistance to ascertain how the meeting voted, they will be the ones who have counted us. This is always the hardest part of the meeting for me. This is when I ask that we remember the members of our families in our community who have died since our last annual town meeting. If you're able to stand, don't feel you have to if you can. But if you're able to stand, let your name. And we'll follow the reading of the name with a moment of reflection. In 2024, just days after our meeting, Albert H. Grimback Jr., Thomas Michael Burns, Mary Ellen Cranston, Roy Paul Nilsson, Howard E. Booker Jr., James C. Adams, Edward Goodgen, Robert Bruce Herland, David W. Bichette, Ruth Ann Robertson, Thomas R. McChesney, Susan Wiedenhoff Wade. In 2025, Eleanor A. Ganser, Jacqueline Cooper, Joseph James Coco, Sabino Louis Pagano, Robert Wendell Holden, Catherine H. Osterman, and a resident of Worcester, but nevertheless, Molly McGovern, the daughter of our representative in Congress, Jim McGovern, and Lisa Murray. The funeral is happening at this moment. Natalie Blay is there and apologizes for not being present here, but she's where she should be. Could we have a moment of silence and reflect on these members of our community? Thank you. You may be seated. This is the second hardest part of our meeting every year. But now you have to sit and listen to me recite the 1849 bylaws. I read the bylaws that govern the conduct of town meeting, May 24th, 1849, our Code of Bylaws. 1. All persons present at any town meeting shall, while the meeting is open, be seated when requested by the presiding officer, if there be sufficient seats therefore. If not, they shall stand at the west end of the hall. 2. When anyone addresses the chair, he shall rise and stand uncovered during his speaking. 3. No one shall stand in front of the chair or around the moderator's stand when votes are being counted or given in, except they are called upon to do so by the chair. 4. There shall be no talking about the house while business is being done, and all shall keep silence at the request of the chair. 5. No one shall speak on the same question more than twice without leave of the meeting, or to explain, or to call to order. 6. No one shall interrupt another while speaking except to call him to order. 7. When several motions are made in regard to the same subject, relating to the sums of money, or numbers, or time, the question shall be first put upon the largest sum, or number, and the longest time. 8. In all other cases, no new motion shall be made while one is pending on the floor, except as an amendment, or to commit, or to adjourn. 9. When a vote decided by the moderator is questioned, it shall be made certain by persons on either side rising and standing in their places, uncovered until counted by the moderator or the tellers appointed by him. 10. The reports of all committees relating to money or property shall be in writing. 11. All motions and amendments shall be in writing when required by the chair or by any person. 12. No person shall be allowed to move the reconsideration of any vote unless he or she has voted in the majority or not voted at all. 13. No peddling or smoking shall be allowed in the hall during the meeting. And 14, this code of bylaws shall be read by the presiding officer or the town clerk at each and every annual town meeting. This warrant, does everybody have a warrant in their name? Good. This warrant this year contains 30 articles, and we each should have a copy of it so that each voter knows what she or he is being asked to vote. Rather than reading each article as it appeared in the warrant, most articles are going to be moved by saying, quote, I move the article as written. However, notwithstanding the fact that that's how the motion is going to be framed, it is not actually going to be moved exactly as written. Implicit in the words as written is replacing the introductory element of the article, which usually says, quote, to see if the town will vote, ... in quote. And then there's the substance of the article that appears. We're going to replace that language with, I move that the town. So implicit in it, move it as written, is the language, I move that the town, and then the actual content of the article will follow. Also, we're going to remove what's called the tail of the article. The tail is usually, or act relative thereto, that says, this is what we're going to talk about at town meeting, so we make a motion or act in that regard, somehow, as it states. Well, because the mover of the motion is asking us to do a specific thing in the motion, we don't need or act relative thereto, so we will remove the tail. So whenever you hear, and you'll hear it a lot this morning, or I move the article as written, we're talking about almost as written, substantively as written, but with the beginning introductory element and back tail removed. So, you will always see the recommendations of our Finance Committee under each article. Members of the Finance Committee will tell you how the committee voted and answer any questions you may have of them. And at this time, I would like to ask to start with the Finance Committee Chair, Ben Martins, to talk about the budget. Mr. Martins and Mr. Carter are going to give us an idea of an overview so that we know what we're voting for. Mr. Martins.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, very much. I'm Ben Martin, Bells Road, Chair of
Ben?
Yes, closer, tighter. Chair of this group. We have a really good team and a really good select board. Before I start, we have a few things coming to our town that are problematic. And one thing I would like to ask is, if you are currently a volunteer or receive a stipend from the town, would you please stand? Come on, little audience. You guys, you're welcome. You volunteer?
Come on, volunteers, stand up, you all, stand up. Please stand up.
So our town is experiencing the graying of our volunteers, people like me. I see Dell there. Dell served many years on a stipend, and when Dell retired, we could not find someone who would work for a stipend. And you'll see in the budget, we pay our chief, the market rate for a chief. It's happening all over. Judy's retiring. Rick is retiring. Alan's retiring. I'm trying to think of who else. Well, Sandy Carter, Mark Burton, who's our friend, is retiring. Who else is retiring who's a volunteer? Well, I'm retired. I said Sandy, yeah. So, what's looming for our town is we're going to be replacing people who volunteered primarily with people who we have to pay. And this is something that we dealt with this year, and you'll see in a few cases where we are hiring people who augment the work of the planning board, to hire a steward to take over where Mary has basically been a volunteer. So that's going to put downward pressure on our budget. It's going to hurt us. So you need to know that's moving, and I encourage, since most of you are volunteers, I'm speaking to the wrong folks, but we need more or less to volunteer more often. So let me talk to you about the budget. We made this, actually, Ms. Carter did most of the work of putting this together for you. There's a few things you should know about our budget. First of all, the part at the top where it says levy. So levy is from the French word raise. So you'll see lots of these articles say raise, which is the levy, and appropriate. So the levy is not the whole budget, it's just the tax portion of the budget. And so you probably all heard of Prop 2.5. So legally, our town is allowed to raise our levy limit 2.5% every year. So forget about compound that for a second. We go to 100 this year, then it could be 102.5 next year, and 105 for a year, and so on. So that's the normal order. But for the special town meeting, you heard about a thing we call a debt exclusion. So our town regularly does a debt exclusion, and we have one here on this warrant today. A debt exclusion is a temporary set aside for a specific purpose that ends when that happens. And so what we did at the special town meeting is you all authorized us to borrow $225,000 last year for a dump truck. We did that so we could go out and purchase the truck. And we are fortunate enough that with our free cash, we are able today to have voted to rescind that and actually pay the $225,000. So that didn't end up in the tax rolls, and it was asked earlier, so that's a really good question, because we never borrowed that money. Had we borrowed that money, then it would end up in your tax roll. So that's called the debt exclusion. It happens one time, and we're still at 100, 102.5, 105, and so on. The other thing the town can do, and some of our local towns are doing it this year, is if you have a structural problem, then we can one time as a town decide to do an override. So let's say that was this year. Last year was 100. Let's say this year we went to 104 because we just needed that money permanently. Then next year would be from 104 to 106.5, right? So it will be permanently there. So you'll see this levy. So the levy is the part that we raise in taxes, but the budget is larger than that because the town has other sources of funds, like fees at the transfer station or for the highway department. And there's all sorts of grants and other things that come in. But the levy is what we are all concerned about because we can't go over that number. And the good news is we are under this year by over $100,000. We have excess capacity in the levy. That doesn't mean that later we can't have a special town meeting and allocate all of that. But at the present time, that's where we are with that. What else did I want to tell you? First of all, we do a really good job. We're there to be your advocates for these budget hearings. They happen from January to April. We wish more of you would come. We are fortunate to have a very competent, very experienced, very good, hard-working select board. And so in this time, our job is quite a bit easier. We don't have to be so muscular because the select board is actually making great decisions for us. I want you to know that. The budget process is hard. We could spend a lot more money as a town, and we don't because it's just not there. And so we are making choices. And then what else do I want to tell you about? So municipal accounting, I think when I first joined the finance committee, Mr. Carter said, you think you understand financial statements, buddy, you don't understand municipal statements, and that's just true. It's really an arcane kind of a system, but the one thing, if you haven't heard of free cash before, don't we wish we all had free cash? Free cash is what happens. If we allocate to spend $1,000 on this thing, and it comes in at $900, that money at the end of the year goes into a bucket of all the excess amounts and goes to free cash. Our town has consistently had a strategy to have at least 6 figures of free cash. One example in this budget that probably was going to be free cash is the vote transportation. So in January or so, the governor announced that she was going to fully fund vocational transportation for vocational ed. Yes, with vocational ed, the governor said that they were going to pay for it. We left it in our budget because frankly that budget hasn't been passed. But should that vocational stuff happen, then that money will end up as free cash. Last year, you'll see if you look at the line around here that says capital expense, you'll see that we normally are at a pace of $300,000 to $400,000 a year, and that's the number. Paul did a lot of work on capital expense. We need to be in the $400,000 to $500,000 a year capital expense business. Last year, because we had this accounting snafu, we didn't have a lot of free cash, and you'll see we only did $32,000 of CapEx. But now that the free cash came in, you'll see that our number for CapEx has gone up a lot. And capital equipment is dump trucks and this building, any asset that needs to be purchased.
Mr. Martin, please do this with the microphone.
Yes, I'm so sorry, friends. So I guess the last thing I want to say is we don't need Doge in Ashfield, but we have a really competent group of folks, and we're watching out for your money. So I thank you for your time, I thank you for your volunteerism, and I think Mr. Carter has a word too.
Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So the tip, right, on microphones, you can treat them like an ice cream cone, but don't lick them. So Ben did a really good job of going over the budget and trying to figure out where the money's coming from and so on and so forth. And it is a long process, right? When we start the Monday after New Year's, we generally start, and every other week when we're not having selectmen meeting, we commit to going through the budget. And when you think about it, we're meeting in January to try to figure out how to throw a football or hit a golf ball through a target that's 18 months away, right? The budget that we're voting on today will end a year, next year at the end of June. So we worked really hard to get the projections and try to figure out where we're going to go and how we're going to get there. We do, Ben had kind of mentioned that right now there's maybe $165,000 left of levy limit. That's not a bad thing, because in 3 months from now something big may come up, and we'll kind of prioritize these projects, and if we need to raise some money before the tax rate is set, we'll be able to do that. It gives us a little bit of flexibility to run our business and not ever to feel like we're back in a corner. This budget is very reasonable. You'll see that we're spending more on capital this year than we did last year. Last year at this time, we were in the middle of an accounting crisis, right? We just did not have a really good handle on where we were. We were flying in the dark. So we pulled back on the reins to try to control that until we had a clear picture. Fortunately, a year ago in October, we got the accounting report, and we're in good shape. So now we feel free to be responsible in spending the dollars that we have. It is a big process, and Ben would like more people at the budget hearings. I don't want to scare everybody by being at the budget meeting. But if you go to the town report, the two things that I think that are really interesting is the numbers at the bottom of page 100. And that is in fiscal 24, when we were flying just a little bit blind, we budgeted to raise nearly $6 million. So 18 months later, we ended up raising $195,000 more than that. So that's just about 3%. I mean, that is really, as far as I'm concerned, on $6 million, that's very close. And then at the bottom of the chart on 104, this is the town accountant's report, we budgeted to spend $5,950,000, and we ended up spending $104,000 less than that. So, is it luck? Was it really suffering over it? I like to think that it's suffering over it, and the money that we didn't spend, you know, on page 104, that's because we have such great department heads. That's always been my feeling. There's not a run on June 20th, oh my God, I got money in my budget, I got to spend it. That we've had very responsible department heads. I think if you look at this, about $30,000 of that was money that was appropriated for the highway that didn't get spent, and I think $30,000 had to do with education, mostly connected to vocational. So, you know, they really do deserve support and try to control in these budgets, which gives us our free cash. But I'm sure there'll be things to discuss article by article, but we have great confidence in what we're presenting to you today.
Anybody not have a warrant? Copy the warrant. Good. Okay. This time, thank you for those budget overviews. It's very illuminating. I feel prepared. I hope everybody feels prepared to make the decisions we're about to make. And at this point, I call on the town clerk, Alexis Tarasenko, to read the return of our warrant for today's town meeting.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, we are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town qualified to vote in elections and in town affairs to meet at the town hall in said Ashfield on Saturday, the 3rd day of May, 2025, at 10 o'clock in the morning, then and there to act on the following articles. There are 30 articles, and this warrant was signed by the Ashfield Select Board on the 22nd day of April. It was posted on the 23rd day of April by Constable Warren Kirkpatrick. Thank you.
And thank you, Madam Clerk. Everything you've done to bring us to this moment, everything you've done downstairs so that we can vote, it's so important. It's being done in the name of our democracy, and thank you. At this point, I think we're ready to cook. Do I hear a motion with respect to Article 2?
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Carter.
I move the article as written.
And is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Goodman. So it has been moved. I think that the Finance Committee does not have an opinion in this regard, a recommendation in this regard, so thank you. You have with you, I hope, our town reports. If you do, I ask you please to turn to page 1, and you'll see that the leadership here in Ashfield has dedicated this year's town reports to Rick Chandler. Rick, where are you? I think you already know, and if not, the dedication shows you what 50 years of volunteerism in this town looks like, and it's embodied in your chamber. There is one little typo, which is one of the 3 daughters, one of the 3 feisty and strong daughters, along with Sarah and Rebecca. Sura was left out. Apologies to Sura. And we think she's strong and feisty too, so there we go. We ready to vote on Article 2 to accept these town reports? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? And any, what do you call it? Abstentions. It's only 10:30. No abstentions, so that Article 2 passes unanimously. there a motion with respect to Article 3?
Mr. Moderator, I move to authorize the town treasurer to enter into compensating balance agreements for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025, in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
We recommend unanimously.
Thank you very much. Just, could you give us an explanation, please, Mr. Lyon?
Sure, this is boilerplate language. We vote on this every year. This simply allows our treasurer to borrow and move money around as needed throughout the fiscal year to pay our bills.
Discussion. Ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 3 as written and as moved, sorry, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. And Article 4,
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Goodman.
I move to authorize the select board to apply for, accept, and expend any grants or gifts that may become available.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please, let's have the explanation first, then I'll ask for the recommendation.
There's really not, it's pretty self-explanatory. This basically is just telling the town and select board to go ahead and, look for grants, and then if we do get those grants, accept them.
You sure we're going to do that? Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee? Mr. Lozinski.
The Finance Committee recommends this article unanimously.
Thank you, Paul.
And let me say one other quick thing, Buzz.
Please.
While I have the mic. You're going to hear that a lot today. The Finance Committee is recommending unanimously. And I just want to point out that that's not a rubber stamp. What that is an indication of a collaborative consensus process during these budget meetings that Ben and Tom were talking about, where we try to work with each other with respect to come to numbers that everybody feels are responsible for the town. And that's why, by the time you get to this point, you're consistently hearing unanimous.
Thank you. That is illuminating. And I think most of us know how many hours these two boards and our clerk, town administrator, how many hours go into making the recommendations that we're having and the articles that we have before us today. Any discussion? 4.
Moderator,
Yes?
I have a question, please. The way that this is worded, Wayne Farrell, Whitney Acres, and I'm louder than your sound system.
Well, yeah, but you're not recorded.
I'm not
If
recorded?
you don't come up here. So anybody who wishes to speak to any article, you make a little line here. It's not just for audibility, it's also for recording. And downstairs, though, you can hear you. So, Mr. Farrell, who are you? Where do you live? And let's have it.
As you stated, Wayne Farrell, Whitney Acres. Question on the wording of this article, please. It says any grants and or any gifts. And I'm wondering if these are gifts that have been already given to the town, that are on record, and accruing interest to be used for specific reasons. If these are going to be made available also, maybe that's a good question for finance.
Yeah, so there are a lot of, so the town does receive a lot of gifts, and a lot of these gifts go to, for specific purposes and go into specific accounts. And those accounts have limitations as opposed to how they can be used. So the select board will only be allowed to use those according to those stipulations that were set up when the gifts were made. Like we have an account specifically for the town steeple. So that money goes into that account. You can't take that money out and use it for anything else.
I just wanted a clarification on the gifts portion of this.
Thank you. Does that help?
That's excellent.
Okay.
Thank you. Let me repeat what I just said. Historically, sometimes I see hands go up, we try to keep track. I don't know the name of the person whose hand is up. It's a lot easier if you wish to speak to any article we're going to be working on this morning. Just take a line right here. Here's a microphone. That'll take care of everybody hearing you and recording you, and the folks downstairs hearing you. So please use that microphone and make a line. Article 5, do I hear a motion? Oh, do we have a vote? Okay, don't. Yes, please.
Briefly, Wayne brings up a really good point. Town report again. I'm so in love now that we've got an accountant's report that has all the information in it. On 107, page 107, under trust funds, those were all, for the most part, there was some money that the towns put in, like the stabilization and the OPEB, but you can discount those, but the trust funds and the OPEB and the state, that's almost $1 million. That's almost $1 million, and quite a bit of that money was gifts that were years ago that were accepted by the town.
Very relevant. Any other questions, comments? Now we're ready to vote. Ready to have a moderator call a vote? All those in favor of Article 4 as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Article 5 is held.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Carter.
Mr. Moderator, I move to authorize the select board to dispose of any unused town-owned equipment and/or property. Second.
Good. So, explanation before I seek a recommendation.
Well, it's just when we have used equipment, I mean, we've got the old fire truck, right? We're gonna dispose of that. Hopefully there'll be a used highway dump truck that we're gonna, not keep the litter around, so to speak. And be able to do our normal course of business by getting rid of unused and unneeded pieces of equipment and property.
Thank you. Recommendation from the Finance Committee?
The Finance Committee recommends this article unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Peter. Discussion. Article 5. Article 4 was input to Alpha. Yes, please. Name and
Rona Luther, 439 West Road. When you say dispose of, what do you mean exactly? Are you talking about selling? Are you talking about what method are you using to dispose of these things?
So like the fire truck that we talked about that's in process now, it's been advertised, we'll take bidders, the highest responsible bid, right? We take that. Sometimes, wasn't it 2 or 3 years ago, we had office equipment downstairs. That did get thrown away, right? We advertised some of those old electric typewriters that were cheap when they bought them, because nobody seemed to be interested in them. So they were advertised, no takers, they went into recycling somewhere. So there's a number of ways, but anything that we feel that there's value, of course, is going to be a bid situation for some revenue to come back to the town.
Thank you.
questions, comments? Ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 5 as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Is there a motion on Article 6?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Lennon.
I move Article 6 as written.
As written.
Second.
Second by Mr. Carter. No? Good. Okay. All right. Explain, please.
Town meeting is the only body that can approve the salaries or stipends for elected officials. This article sets the amount. The actual appropriation of the funding is found later in a different article, the general budget. But this sets the amounts. Maybe the finance committee can correct me, but I don't think these amounts have changed at all over the years for quite some time.
Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
We recommend Article 6 unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Discussion. I know you think the moderator is overpaid. Comments, questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 6, elected officials' compensation as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Article 7, is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes, Mr. Goodgen.
I move Article 7 as written.
And second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lander. Talk to us.
So, under our current bylaws, town meeting must give approval every time a non-voter wishes to speak. And so in town, we have a lot of people that work for the town and run departments who aren't necessarily residents. And so every year we have to pass this to allow them to speak at town meetings so that they can step in and explain things or clarify things. So just coming up, we're looking at a bylaw change to add this to our bylaws later in the meeting. But we have to vote on this today to move this meeting forward.
And I really want to thank the board for putting, I'm not sure quite whose idea this was, but it's a really good idea. We have a police chief who's not a resident of Ashfield, a superintendent who's not a resident of Ashfield, and yet we rely on hearing from them in order to make important decisions that are made. So I think that this is brilliant, and we don't have to ask you for leave for them to speak. They'll be able to speak as officials. So thank you for doing this. Comments, questions, discussion? Ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 7 as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Article 8, revolving funds, is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Carter.
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 8 as written.
Second.
Goodgen. Please.
Okay, Article 8, just talking about the revolving funds that the town's already set up. You can look down through the list, but and a good example is at the park, they receive funds for giving swim lessons, and they take that money and pay for the instructors without having to go through every one of those things to go through town meeting. These were set up intentionally by the town, and this is just authorizing that they're used for their purpose.
Thank you. Mr. Markings, is there a recommendation by the Finance Committee?
Yes, there is. We recommend unanimously. So remember before I talked about free cash, that money left over at the end of the year goes into free cash. And these revolving funds, that does not happen. Those balances do not go to zero. That's a good example of that. Recommended unanimously.
Mr. Markings, I had a smile at your, I'm grateful for your original comment when you explained what free cash is, because I always think of, is free cash? But it's not really free. So thanks very much. Discussion. Comments, questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor of the Article 8 about revolving funds as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Article 9 is our motion.
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. O'Lantern.
I move Article 9 as written.
Second.
I'm going to ask you for an explanation. Is there anybody who doesn't have the handouts involving our article? All right, good. Mr. O'Lantern.
Yes, so Article 9 is this year's school budget. Overall, the Mohawk budget this year, the increase hovered right around 3%. So they presented the district of what we felt was a very responsible budget. Because of the way the funding formula works and the district agreement funding formula works, sometimes towns pay the average increase, sometimes towns end up paying a higher assessment based on the formula, and sometimes towns end up paying a little bit less than what other towns are paying. And it fluctuates from year to year, depending on the variabilities within the formula. This year was one of those years where Ashfield's assessment was higher than average, which is unfortunate, but we expect that to happen periodically depending on the funding very, very wholesome. In terms of budget specifics, I'm happy to defer to the superintendent on any direct questions.
Thank you. Recommendation by the Finance Committee?
Yes, so I personally go to almost all of the budget committees hearings. So thanks, I'm sorry. So I go to the budget committee of the school committee's hearings, their things, and you should know they're populated by volunteers just like us from all the towns, and they're very serious about this, and it's a huge budget, $25 million, so there's lots of moving parts. I think we're lucky with the superintendent and her staff who do a really good job on this. I can tell you, looking through it, I don't see a lot of waste, a lot of dozy stuff, and our committee recommends that we pass this unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. We have with us our Superintendent, Cheryl Stanton. We're always grateful that she comes here and is available for any questions or comments. So, if you have questions or comments, please approach the microphone in the aisle there so that everyone can hear you, so we can record your question, and the superintendent is here to answer them.
Buzz, can you swap out your mic? We can't hear you.
What are you, a sound guy? Is this any better? Yes. All right. Thank you, Paul. So, what I was saying that you couldn't hear was, if there are any questions or comments, please line up behind this microphone here. If you have questions about school expenses in Article 9 of your warrant, you have the superintendent here. Seeing no hands going up, nobody approaching the microphone, I'll just ask, is there an overview you can give us, superintendent? Oh, by the way, nice shirt.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. So I have to say two things before I get started. I usually have Keith before you on the town meeting day, so I did not this year. So, really close. Okay. So if I am a little nervous, I apologize right up front. You are my first people out of the gate. And second, I am wearing my high visibility shirt. This is the result of our advocacy for rural aid specific to rural schools. 38,011 students are rural that are educated across the Commonwealth, over 67 districts, and are all listed there. So you will see the school committee and students out at the Capitol on May 6th doing a day on the Hill. We have also met with our senators in Berkshire's, Boston to Berkshires with Senator Mark. So you are very well represented in the advocacy effort for rural schools in particular, but I do want to let you know that we also advocate for the needs in rural communities because they are unique. And that includes roads, as you know, housing, and grants that we don't typically get because we are such small towns and have such small populations. So without further ado, my name is Cheryl Stanton. I'm the superintendent of the Mohawk Trail and Hallomont Regional School Districts, where learning and growth is our focus and community and courage is our path. Students in the Mohawk Trail Regional School District find dedicated teachers, thoughtful curriculum, a tightly knit community, connections to the outdoors and surrounding area, and more support for social, emotional, and academic needs than from our neighboring districts. We invest in opportunity and growth for each and every one of our students. We respond to the needs of your children. We know each student is unique and deserves the assurance that fiscal responsibility and stability in education provides. We are presenting a budget that is both responsible to our member towns and provides the resources necessary to provide a continuum of services our students need. While working with the resources we have, we are also seeking ways to fortify the future. Over the last year, we have gone through a grant-funded district-wide sustainability study led by consultants Berk 12. After hosting numerous community engagement sessions, conducting research, and considering feedback given in person and through surveys, The firm presented 5 models for sustainability, and the steering committee has proposed next steps to a sustainability model. And to that, I just want to say thank you to all of you who have been participating in those meetings. We are going into phase 3. I want to reiterate that absolutely nothing has been decided. All right, so in phase 3, it's your opportunity to come and listen and provide more feedback. The model that has been moved forward is a single campus. However, there is not a decision on whether that means a single school or an addition to Mohawk Trail that would house our youngest students because the needs of a classroom for pre-K through K are different, obviously, than our middle school and high school. And also the potential to build a new elementary school on the campus that's completely separate. It does mean closure of schools. And that is hard. I want to say that again. It means closing schools. The only way for us to gain any kind of efficiencies of scale, it is to close schools. Oh, sorry, okay. Budget.
The reason I interrupted is, for those of you who weren't here when we talked about this, there's a question about downstairs. It is illegal to be debating and talking about the pros and cons of it within 150 feet of a polling place, whether it's a candidate or a question. So, the superintendent's comments are perfectly appropriate. I understand she was trying to be edifying to the educator, but I want to make sure we don't slide into advocacy of one position or another. And I just foresaw maybe that happening. So we may not debate this up here. We vote downstairs, and if that non-binding question is voted on to allow the process to continue, we'll have plenty of opportunities to discuss it among ourselves. So thank you.
Okay, so moving forward, we have amazing staff and students. Did you know that this spring we are honored to host the Smithsonian Institute Museum on Main Street traveling exhibition titled Voices and Votes, Democracy in America. Students, teachers, families, community members, and others have come to see the small but mighty self-guided exhibit, and we are grateful to Mass Humanities, the Mass Cultural Council, and the Mary Lyon Foundation, and local cultural councils and other local partners who have made this opportunity possible. This was a vote of confidence for Mohawk Trail Regional to represent rural towns. Did you know Mohawk Trail offers 10 advancement placement courses on a rotating basis in the areas of computer science, principles, English literature and composition, English language and composition, U.S. history, and chemistry. Of the 38 Mohawk Trail Regional students who took 54 tests last spring, 57 earned college credit for their efforts. Did you know that 70% of graduates in the class of 2024 went on to pursue higher education? A sampling of students from this year's graduating class have committed to the following institutions: Endicott College, Franklin Tech Adult Ed, Greenfield Community College, Northeastern University, Rochester Institute of Technology, maybe they'll run into my daughter, UMass Amherst, University of Vermont, and Williams College. We make opportunities available to access such programs as Greenfield Community College's dual enrollment program, independent and work study options, and self-guided capstone and civics projects. Our students have had internships and work-based learning experiences at Trailside Vet, Suzer IT, Mass Hire, MTRSD Communications, Davenport Service Station, the Franklin Land Trust, and Berkshire East, just to name a few. I could go on and brag all day, but I think, do you want me to talk about the specifics, or we didn't have other
I'm surprised we don't have more questions or comments. Are there going to be questions or comments? If so, Mr. Pless will be your model. He'll walk up and he'll stand here, get out here.
you have the information in front of you. You have the enrollment figures. I typically read those. I don't think I need to. Your enrollment is pretty steady. So I think I'll just field questions at this point.
Mr. Pless.
Bill Pless, Cape Street. The schools have improved a lot. There's a lot going on, and a lot of things have changed. However, I'm sorry, I cannot support this budget for a variety of reasons. I know everybody's worked hard on it, but that's not a reason to support it, because people have worked hard on it. Mohawk District costs more per student than any other district in our area, and that's not right. Our quality of education is better than it's been, but we are still losing more students from our district because families don't think it is adequate. We need a revolution in our school budget. We have empty school buses that we pay $3 million plus for. We have parents lined up at the school. They won't put them on school buses. There's some really good solutions, but Boston will not go along with us. And all the work Cheryl has done, and it's dramatic, to try to turn the state around. The entire voting bloc of Boston is bigger in the legislature than all our rural schools. They don't get it. They don't pay for busing. They put their kids on the T for free. We have got to come up with some dramatic solutions. When we look at where money gets cut, we hear about, well, we're going to have to let some teachers go. I want to hear about letting some administration go. We have too much administration. When you compare district to district, too much administration. I assume that this body will vote the school budget, but it will not be unanimous. I just in good conscience cannot vote for this school budget, given what's going on at the state level and in the schools. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Platt. Please, no applause for any speaker because it deters people who have a different opinion from offering their opinion.
Can I speak to that?
We don't do that. You will. I just want to point out one thing. I spoke with Natalie Blay, our representative in the General Court, and with Senator Joe Comerford. Natalie Blay has led the effort for rural schools and to change the formula by which we fund our schools, as has Senator Joe Comerford. Please. So, someone might disagree, and I don't want them to feel like they can't. Thank you. She called me. She right now is at the funeral for Molly McGovern, 23-year-old daughter who suddenly died of our representative in Congress, Jim McGovern, and his wife Lisa. And so Natalie Blay is always here. She was coming to speak to those issues that Mr. Pless just raised, and about the effort to change the formula on a statewide level in a way that impacts on rural schools favorably. She couldn't be here. She expresses her regret. She welcomes you to contact her office. She wants that. Yes, Superintendent Stanton, please address that.
Hi, Mr. Pless. Thank you for bringing those concerns forward. A couple of things. In regards to school choice and your comment that we are turning the district around, I would agree with you. In 2023, 115 students left the district through school choice. In 2025, only 101. So we are seeing improvement in people using choice. And in 2023, 90 students chose Mohawk Trail Regional School District, that is pre-K-12. And in 2025, 116 have chosen. So we are starting to see the shift, but I do agree with you. The revolution is in the Chapter 70 formula. Senator Lewis has had a bill in front of the legislature that has not moved forward. However, it's in the legislative agenda again this year, and it is all about opening Chapter 70, as they have for the Student Opportunity Act, to recognize that the formula does not adequately address the very unique needs of rural districts and small school districts. So we shouldn't be penalized because we're rural and we have a smaller population and a smaller demographic. However, the formula punishes inadvertently small rural districts. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Mr. Farrell. Please use the microphone.
And you are the sound guy, yes. Wayne Farrell, Whitney Acres. There was a handout on the back table that's very informative, showing that Ashfield sends 39 students down to the regional high school. And it also has in this Article 9, vocational education expenses of $450,000. But I, quick glance, you can't find anywhere on this handout how many students that is that choose to go outside of our district that we're paying over $2,800,000 for.
So the vocational students apply to go to vocational, typically at Smith or Franklin County. I don't have those numbers. You aren't part of Franklin County Tech, so.
Mr. Carter has those notes.
Well, I don't have the numbers. I want to be absolutely honest with everyone. The numbers that are in there for vocational and vocational transportation are pretty much a swag, right? They're taking what we've had, who's applied, who's going to return, but they're not dead on numbers because a lot of those decisions, we don't even know how that's actually going to work out until we get to September of next year. So, yes, it's a scientific wild-ass guess as far as vocational goes. But it's better to have enough money in there than to come back for more if there are 3 extra students that are in there. But vocational is something because we send students to 2 schools, right? They can choose, since we're not a member of Franklin Tech, they can go to Franklin Tech, they can go to Smith. And we pay the tuition for both of those. And we've got people that work on that, great volunteers. David Newell's still helping with that, or yeah, that try to economize on the transportation, you know, once we know what students are going. So it's an increase, but we have more people that are involved.
Mr. Farrell. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Farrell's question.
Yes, to Mr. Farrell's.
Ben Markins.
Yes, Ben Markins, the Finance Committee. So in our budget hearing materials, which Paul, by the way, we didn't thank Mr. McClatchy. He's really invaluable to the budgeting process. He printed out for us. Here's the explanation in our budget hearing. Basic vocational on anticipated 12 students, 11 current who graduating, and applications as of February 27th. We use a formula of 50% of those students getting accepted. And we estimated $12,500 per student for transportation. So we did, those are the numbers we had, but as Tom said.
Can you repeat that, please, because there's too much interference going on?
Sure.
Thanks.
So anticipating 12 students, 11 current, minus 2 graduating, and 6 applications, of which we think we use a rule of thumb of half. So that gets us to the number of students, 11 minus 2 plus 3. Which is 12, I think, if I'm doing math right. And so that's the numbers. And it's darn expensive. And the thing the superintendent didn't speak about is VOCAD is expensive. We have a lot of special needs children, and I think one child alone is going to cost $1 million this year. One child. And we are legally responsible to do that. And the state doesn't give us very much money to help us with that. And then the transportation, I think you've heard us over and over again. We are woefully underfunded on transportation. Well, the promise of regionalization said they would pay for the transportation, and that's just not happening. And so we are paying for it.
Superintendent Stanley.
Yes, thank you. You do have a volunteer group that, like Ashfield, there are other towns that are not member towns of a vocational school. That organization is called VIAC. And they work together, and Mohawk Trail, we have an agreement that we do the billing and we do sort of the back-end business side for you in terms of transportation, and so that these wonderful volunteers don't have to worry about that, but they also figure out who's accepted when and how to provide the most efficient transportation for those students because they are by law allowed to have transportation.
Mr. Farrell, the mic is yours.
Yes, question back to Ben, please, in the Finance Committee. I guess what you were stating then is that $450,000 for the next fiscal year is going to be for 12 vocational students. Is that what we're saying? Yeah.
Understanding that it's a projection, as Mrs. Carter
Yeah,
said.
it could be more, yes. I
Or less. Right.
Less. Thank you. Thank you.
That it? Thank you, Mr. Farrell. Good question. Other questions, any comments? Somebody's pointing to somebody. Mr. Gravel.
Mary Gravel, Watson Street Corner Road. The one thing I questioned from what the superintendent said was building another campus at Mohawk. That makes no sense to me with all of these elementary schools that were built recently.
I'm reluctant to cut off anybody. We may not debate an issue that's being considered on the ballot downstairs. Everybody here, when I
But
said that?
that's part of what she said.
I know, and then I told her, I asked her, I gestured, please stop, because she's sliding into a discussion that we're not permitted to have as a matter of law. It's not us. 2 towns were sanctioned last year for doing that. We may not discuss a question or a candidate on a ballot within 150 feet, and we are within 150 feet. You can move away, still, anyway. Yeah, I hope you have another, your questions are always great, and probably that one was as well, but I don't think we should go there. Does anybody disagree with me?
I'm not feeling like I'm attacking anyone.
No, the question is whether you're going into debate about a question on the ballot.
Okay, but is voting on the school budget going to vote for a new campus?
No.
Okay, I didn't understand your question.
Can you repeat the question, please?
The question is voting on this school, Article 9, does that mean we're voting to
build a new campus?
No. So, that question is unrelated to what you're voting on today. Here. Downstairs is a non-binding question you could vote on down there on the ballot. Sorry, Mr. Gravel. Yeah. Nice and close.
I appreciate all the improvements in the schools. I know the formula works against us and it's a very challenging situation. I calculated that there's 111 children in our school district at a cost of $3 million. What's the per student cost?
So the per pupil cost, you can't simply divide your assessment amount by the number of students that attend from Ashfield. The per pupil cost includes costs that are distributed across all 8 towns because you are a region. So we can't calculate this budget's per pupil expenditure. We will be calculating that and presenting that as we close out this school year, and that is always on our website and also the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
So what's the per pupil cost spread out over the 8 school districts? I mean, what's your per pupil cost overall?
So I don't have that. Not in
What was
a,
it last year?
so I didn't bring that with me, but I can look it up and I will
Well,
find you.
maybe what we can do is just extraordinarily high cost for the schools. The schools are critical to our democracy and they're critical to our community and our future. But we really ought to do something about this extraordinary cost. I know Natalie Clay is working on it, but we're in an extreme situation at a time when people are facing cost increases and other issues.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think a way to answer your question, why is the budget increasing? The fixed cost increases for this year alone are $112,000 for transportation. That's a contractual obligation that we have. We have a 3-year contract with multiple districts in the area. We have $719,746 in contractual increases for salaries. And I want to say that the school committee does an amazing job to negotiate and keep those increases within reason. I'm very proud of that work with the school committee. We had $397,346 increase in health insurance costs. We expected a 5% increase and budgeted for a 5%, and it is a 10% increase, which if you look around in other areas, people are seeing 14 to 25% increases in healthcare. So that's been a hard one. We had a $15,000 increase for the Franklin County retirement benefit. It means that as we right size and don't replace personnel, we still have to pay for their retiree benefits. So that is going to be an expense that hopefully over time, if we're able to reduce and right size, that retirement expense will also start to decline. And then $45,000 increase in liability and workman's compensation insurance, and then a $578,000 increase for special education expenses. So that's right out of the gate, $1.8 million in an increase that we really don't have a say over. And so I think coming to you with the budget the way it is, I want to be clear, we are offsetting this budget to keep town assessments as low as possible, but we are doing it with things like school choice and grants. And that is not a sustainability strategy that is going to be effective long term, right? So that's why we're in a sustainability study, and I'm going to stop there. But we have to cover our increases without any additional state funding.
So have you made any cuts, and have you made any cuts? You haven't increased your costs.
Yes.
Have you made cuts to the budget?
Yes, we did. We reduced administration by $20,000. We reduced instruction, that would be teacher salaries, stipends, and supplies by $513,639. Student services, which is school nurse, athletics, and transportation. That transportation is like athletic transportation, field trip, so it's different than the transportation contract. That was $56,000. Maintenance and operations, including telecommunications, buildings, and grounds, was reduced $54,283. Benefits and HR, we reduced by $7,000. And then school choice outgoing, this is a good thing, we were able to reduce that expense by $200,000 because, as I mentioned, we don't have as many students going out. So that total is $851,013. And if you go to our website and you go to the FY26 budget book, there is a tab, and if you click on that tab, the specific decreases are shown.
Mr. Martins, in response to Ms. Schwartz.
Yes, thank you for your question. So I mentioned that I go to their budget hearings, just like I encourage you to come to ours. They're open meetings, everyone's entitled to go. There's lots of conversations about what needs to be eliminated. And they're working really hard not to do athletics and arts. But one that sort of hurt my heart when I heard about it is, we got a grant, I think a couple of years ago, to teach kids American Sign Language. I guess there was a big uptick in that. It was about $100,000. The grant went away, and the superintendent and her team made our decision, we can't teach ASL anymore. And there were lots of examples of that in the conversation. Do we need this? Got a lot of pushing and pulling to try to get it as low as it was. So it's not like they just rubber stamped and said everything's up 5%.
Thank you, Mr. Cooks. Yes, name and where you live, please.
Glenda Sperling, Bronson Avenue.
You can get closer and really speak to it. Thank you, Ms. Burrow.
Should I say it again? Glenda Sperling, Bronson Avenue. I have a question about the choicing out. It's always often talking about vocational school, but does that include like Frontier? So it includes, but not busing for Frontier. Like what is the actual breakdown? And I'm wondering if it's on what you just mentioned to the last person here, like going online and toggling down.
those numbers are there. School choice is different than when students choose to attend a vocational school. So you can put a hard wall between vocation and school choice. School choice, we do not have the legal obligation to transport students. I would argue that it's an equity issue because any student in a family that doesn't have transportation, therefore doesn't have the opportunity to choose to go to a different school. I'll get off my soapbox there. So school choice, we surveyed families and we find a couple of things. Many of our school choice families are making that decision because of three things. Proximity to a workplace. They might be a teacher in another district, they might be going towards Northampton, so they want to bring their students with them and find after-school activities for them. So that's a big reason why families are using school choice. The second is that they are looking for proximity to daycare, and that childcare could be a grandparent that lives in, let's say, Conway, and so they end up going to Conway Elementary. The third is the perception in the community that the high school, in particular, is not providing a rigorous education. When we look at the actual survey, the families who have their students with us report high levels of satisfaction with the academic program, but in the community, there is a disconnect. And that's what we're trying to get at. I stood on this town meeting during COVID outside, and somebody said, "You don't have AP classes," and I think I was brand new, and I was like, that seems weird. And so I went back, and we do have AP. We have 10 AP courses. So there's this real disconnect between what's actually happening in our classrooms for students. We have a merit scholar. I mean, that's unheard of. We have students going to most any school they want to go to, and students going right into career. So that's the disconnect that I think we're starting to change, and you're starting to see those school choice numbers reverse.
Thank you. Yes, follow-up, Ms. Berman.
Transportation for a child who choices out that is on an IEP 504, are we obligated to give them that transportation? Yes.
What is an IP 504?
So an IEP is an individual education plan. They are developed with the parent, student, teacher, and pupil services director to address specific learning needs that our students have. A 504 is, the difference is, a 504 is still a plan, but it can be more temporary. So think broken arm. Your student breaks their writing arm, and so a 504 would be for a student to be allowed to use a keyboard for the day. So that's kind of the difference. Thank you. You're welcome. I just wanted a clearer understanding of that piece of the
Yeah, and transportation. Yeah, so we are responsible for transporting the student, but we get reimbursed for that from the sending where the student actually lives.
Thank you, Ms. Berman. Ms. Lane.
Mary Link, 48 Buckland Road. I came in a little late, so you may have answered some of these questions already. But before I answer the question, I can say it's been some time, but I was on the school committee for a while, and I was chair of the budget subcommittee. So I can say that coming in with a 3% budget increase is pretty darn good. And so people may not realize that that's good, but that's close to the 2.5% that we're all bound by. And so I want to appreciate that you came in with an overall budget that is that low an increase. And there I think some of what I want to say, it goes back to the state and Natalie, probably, that, we need switch to the government-provided health insurance system. We were going to save a lot of money. When I was on school committee, we had 10% increases that were fixed on the insurance every year. And so I'm wondering if you have any clue or anything to say about, they told us, like in the beginning, it was a 3% or something. My memory may not be right. Tom's nodding a little bit. He was, but how did it get back to 10%, and are we going to expect that from them every year? That's one question.
So historically, the GIC, the insurance that the school district uses, has been typically a 3 to 5% increase. We've been really pleased with that. When we went to the Zoom meeting for the increases, a couple of things. One is medication, so prescriptions. A very large increase in the cost of prescriptions. So that is very significant. Off the top of my head, I can't remember the other one, so I'm sorry. But that strikes me as the main increase. I can tell you, however, that a second one is related to substance use disorder and the increase in the need of our communities to receive that kind of care.
The other, that scribbles all over my paper.
Listen, while Ms. Link is thinking, it is really important that these two blocks be registered voters. Any unregistered voters should be at the flank, so I know when we call the question, who's voting, who's not voting. We can only have registered voters in these two blocks. Unregistered voters over there. Thank you, Ms. Link.
The other thing, I'm really grateful, I'm sorry Natalie isn't here, and I'm even sadder because of the reason she's not here. But I think that that point is really important for all of us to reach out to her. The amount of money we get from the state hasn't changed in 20 years. I mean, back when I was on, it was the same thing. And so what happens in the money for that is that as the expenses increase, which expenses for everything increases in our lives, and when the state's proportion of the budget doesn't increase, then the weight of that falls on us increasingly. And the school district can't do a whole lot about that. And the town can't do a whole lot about that except for having to rise to the occasion. So talking to our state reps about that is so important. And there have been times that groups of us have gone to Boston to talk to the people in Boston. There's times we've invited the people from Boston to come out here and visit our schools, and it takes them 2 days because our district is so big, they cannot visit all of them in 1 day. And when that happens, then they get an idea of how big we are and spread out and how far it is from the home of one school-age child to another compared to Boston. So I think that there's more of that kind of organizing that you and we can do that may help this not be an issue every year on town meeting floor. My other question is totally unrelated in those ways. Capital expense, did you say what that's for? And related to that, where are we in our debt service? Did we pay off Sanderson already or not yet?
Yes, Sanderson's paid off. The debt that you are the capital debt you are talking about is for the omnibus improvements, repairs to Mohawk Trail and Sanderson. That began about, I want to say, 4 years ago, and it included things like pavement, cracks in sidewalks. It included lots of safety things, and I think, Ben, are you waving over there? No? The roof. It included the panels in some cases, in some schools, the security panels, upgrading, those kinds of things.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And And apropos of what Liz was saying, I want to remind anyone who wasn't here, I spoke with Natalie Lay this morning. And this is virtually a quote. She said, she works as your voice. She needs to hear from you. And I know in this regard, this is her passion, is rural schools. So please contact your representative, Ms. Carol.
Carol, from 92 Main Street. Could you just go back to another thing, the formula on how much each town has to pay towards this budget? Can you just say a little bit about how that formula is formulated?
It's a little complicated. I kind of wish Bill was here. The formula is the formula is developed based on enrollment. It is a percent of the pre-K 6 students that are in your that are in the towns. That has a certain percent because remember, Palmont, which is Holly and Charlemont, have a separate elementary school. So you get assessed a certain percentage at the elementary, and then you are assessed a certain percent at the 7-12, which is the middle school. Those two things are combined, and you get your assessment percent. And that should equal 100, so each town has a share of that percent. Your assessment percent this year went up 0.58%. And I'm not sure I wrote down what the total was. I think it's around 13.
Mr. Moderator, could we ask the superintendent to talk about minimums and above minimums, or I will?
Right, but we want to make sure that Ms. Carroll's question is...
This is to that question.
So in addition to how Mohawk Trail assesses each town in its enrollment formula, in addition, the state has a required minimum contribution that they calculate based on a lot of things, including wealth factor, growth, population. It's very detailed. Your required contribution went up $81,860. That is a state-generated number. We have nothing to do with that. And then the above minimum is everything that the district has in the budget that is above the total of the minimum contribution that we're receiving from the state. So the above minimum contribution gets assessed across the district based on your percentage, your assessment percentage. And then your transportation percent this year went up $9,480 or 4.28%.
Is there some place that one can go to just look at those numbers?
Yes, so the best place to go is our website, and you are going to find a MTRSD FY26 budget book. When you open that, you have to go all along the bottom, and there are many tabs that talk to and feed the first budget sheet. So don't stop in the beginning. Like, go down on the bottom, look at the tabs, and you can get any question answered. And if you don't understand it, just call us, and we'll walk you through it. Right, Mr. Plus?
And I think we all know MTRSD is the Mohawk Trail Regional School District. Yes.
Wendy Kaiser, Holly Road, Ashfield. I want to go back to your comments about school choice and the reasons that people pick school choice. I am very disturbed by your use of the term community perception for lack of rigor in the schools, because it diminishes true experiences that people had, not just, it makes it sound like it's a rumor and not an experience. I am a public educator. I myself had a lot of struggles for my two children when they were in the middle school with trying to get enough rigor for them. So it was a true experience. They came home every night, were complaining at dinner with frustration and not being challenged enough. By saying that AP courses check that box for rigor, that's not sufficient. AP courses. Usually there's only one per subject area that a student can take out of 6 years of middle and high school. English has 2. But what my kids were looking for was rigor at every grade level in their subject areas, and they were not satisfied. I'd also like to point out that some families who are not satisfied with the level of rigor aren't even school choicing. So we have the people that we even go to Frontier, and then numbers that aren't even recorded include families that actually move to live in another town so they can have a school district that suits their needs of their children better. And some people send their kids to, and I don't know if you put charter schools in with school choice, there's people, so charter schools, people leave for that reason, as well as going to private schools. So that number of families who are leaving because of this concern, it's a true concern, it's not a perception. And what I would really love to hear you say is we're going to try to take some steps to work on it, not to publicize ourselves better. One quick example is no cost at all allowing students to take classes with a different grade level. And when my kids were there, you allowed it for 1 year and then cut it off. And that costs nothing. That's not even a financial cost. So,
When was that? When your kids were there?
well, they graduated high school in 2022, and so this was when they were in 8th grade. I can't do the math that fast. And they were allowed for 1 year to take math with the 9th graders, and it was a great experience for them and the 9th graders, and then the school stopped doing it. So what I'd like to hear from you is a commitment to truly examine and find creative ways to increase the rigor for 7th through 12th graders, and not just act like it's a publicity issue.
So, first, I apologize. It was not my intent to create the, misconception of its perception only. It was only that, that when we look at the results from surveys of our current families that have students in the seat right now, they report being extremely pleased with the kind of education, the level of education, and the programming that we have for their students. With regards to your point about, allowing students to float up, so to speak, if you're speaking about math, there is a tremendous amount of research that says that accelerating students in math only is not an appropriate way to provide rigorous instruction for students. Okay? So traditionally, many of us have been in schools where you were potentially the smart kids, and you went into the smart kid math class, and all of a sudden you were around all the other smart kid math students, and you, by the nature of the structure of the school, became separated from everyone else in the body of the school. And our work in the schools has been to eliminate that so that every single student has the opportunity to take rigorous coursework, particularly in mathematics. And what that has resulted in is the percent of our high-need students, that students that have high levels of poverty, they may be English language learners, and they may be special education students. 76% of our high-need students participate in and earn qualifying scores in advanced placed coursework. So, again, when I talk about perception, people don't necessarily know that percent of students that historically would not have been placed in an accelerated math class. They don't know that our students, all of our students, are performing and receiving rigorous instruction. So I would invite you to come and look at what we're doing now. And I would invite you to come and have conversations with the parents of our kids who are right now in our classrooms and receiving instruction, from our teachers.
Thank you. That was the same model that was also pitched at the very same time that my children were not satisfied. And I guess what I'm worried about is that you're very confident in your model, but it may not reflect the experiences of students as fully as you feel. And what I would like to hear is a commitment for improvement, but it sounds like maybe that's not what you're offering.
Well, I think a couple of things. One, we have been working on a schedule change. Structurally, we have a schedule at the middle school, high school that is a block schedule, and classes are taught in half years. And it doesn't allow for some of the flexibility that we need for students. So we are working to try and have a set-in-period schedule where students would have more access to more instruction and would be able to take, for example, middle school students being able to take Spanish 1, which they're not able to do now. So those are the things we are looking at being able to do, but we haven't been able to because the schedule, in addition, the middle school and the high school were on separate schedules. So we're trying to mitigate that, but really use the 2 periods of exploratory, which are additional classes in arts, technology, music, to really expand those programs for kids.
Thank you. Thank you very much. As you know, we are allowed, any member can speak to an article twice, but our pattern in the past traditionally is to allow people who haven't spoken yet to speak first, and then I will call on Mr. Pleasant Martins. Your name and where you live, please.
Penny Markins, 597 Bellis Road. I did serve on the school committee for 6 years, which involved COVID and a bunch of other interesting life events. I had been involved with schools and different schools further south from here for a 25-year period in my career. And so I had a child, so pretty well versed in child development, educational things. The 2 things the school did when Cheryl came on board that I think bear scrutiny, positive scrutiny. You have specialists who go into the classroom. They get minute or day-by-day data on student progress toward the goals of the teachers have real-time information about how students are performing in the classroom. I also attended a training that we had as a school committee about a better way to teach mathematics and getting kids to work together in problem solving. And I'll give you an example. We have a very dear family friend who is off the charts in math. He's currently working for the Broad in Boston. He was a brilliant kid in math, but he needed the developmental stages. And so, because he was so advanced, he became the teacher's helper in the class. And that has stood him in remarkable stead in his career, because he's able to explain to people who are not mathematically gifted in a way that they can understand. And sometimes kids learn better from their peers. I think that the math instruction in Mohawk has grown by leaps and bounds based on these changes.
Thank you. One thing I'd like to add is we are looking at a curriculum.
Okay, that was a comment, not a question. Sorry. Yeah, that's okay. I'll take the lead here. Bill Pless, thank you for your patience.
So we've been waiting about 30 years for the state to be right with us, and we're going to keep waiting. Doesn't mean we don't keep fighting. So now we had a little town meeting here at Elmer's, a couple months ago, and I brought up the issue of school transportation. And I said, we need a whole new state model. We got to change this requirement. We got to allow parents to bring their kids, maybe slightly higher. She said, Phil, we had a full study, 2018. It has gone nowhere. We hope we'll change the formula. The formula is really complicated, not a little complicated, it's a lot complicated. There's 2 big factors in it. EQV, which is our equalized valuation. If you haven't noticed, Ashfield's values are a little higher than our neighboring towns in this district. We might have the highest. So we have to pay more because of that. They also go by income. It was found out a few years ago that the town of Buckland was being improperly assessed for income because the state doesn't do its formula based on what town you live in. It's based on your zip code. Ashfield has 4 zip codes. Buckland was getting mail from 3. But the state decided that Buckland's zip code was 01338, which only serves the Upper Street, Upper Buckland Village area, which is the wealthiest concentration in the town of Buckland. And so Buckland was getting hammered. I'm not aware the state has changed that yet. Do you know? No. So we really hope the state will come through, but we've been waiting for a long time. And that's why we have to do something at the local level. We cannot keep waiting for the state because it's just not happening.
Thank you, Mr. Bliss. Kohler. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Carter and then Mrs. Kohler.
I was hoping this would be in conclusion. But years ago, when I first got on the board, 100 years ago, there was a gentleman that came in and made a real impression on me. He said, you know, the town government at that time had 3 functions, needed functions. First was education, to be able to supply a quality education to the kids. The second thing was to maintain roads so everybody could get to work and pay their taxes. And the third was a certain level of public safety. In that order, most important to least important. And the town of Ashfield has been great at supporting education. We've been discussing here for an hour, nigh on, about the budget. And it comes back right from the, I agree with Phil, you know, on a lot of points, except I support it. But the problems are the state formula for getting state aid, the state aid itself, not getting our transportation payments that were promised in 1968 when the region was formed. And that's a long time to be lying to people, right? 1968. And federal regulations, right? All the regulations, what you have to supply, how you have to supply it, and how many damn administrators it takes to keep track of them all. All right? So these are things that are really outside of our control. And, you know, we've talked about Natalie Blay and, you know, what great work she's doing, but we can't throw it all on her shoulders, right? And we have to get other towns and other regions, and I know the superintendent has been working really hard. I appreciate that the budget is only up as much as it is, even though we had the highest percentage increase. Because I'm looking at the whole budget. And a $27 million budget for the schools isn't something that you're going to turn around. I mean, it's the difference, the town of Ashfield and the Mohawk District is the difference of piloting a kayak and the USS Ronald Reagan, right? It's not going to turn around all that quick. I appreciate the budget where it is. It helps us make our budget work locally, but it's not a responsible budget. There is, to my knowledge, that if you close your eyes, what you'll see is about what the balance in the excess and deficiency line would be. What we normally call free cash. And the school district is a much more living, breathing thing that goes on all the time than what the town of Ashfield is, right? We can hit that target. You know, water heater craps out or something else happens, all of a sudden it's a budgetary crisis if they don't have any extra money. So I understand why the budget's made. They have to satisfy more than the town of Ashfield. And we have all these other factors in play, but I support the changes that are happening at the school. I support this budget, and we have to keep working forward to find those long-term changes. We've had a group, Buzz might slap my hand here, but we've had groups for the last 40 years, every decade, that have looked at how the school is formed and how we run it, and we haven't done anything. And these were good people on these groups, people that were very thoughtful, that were really interested, that weren't getting their news on the street corner, right? They were going with administration and talking to people, and we haven't done anything. It just makes me wonder with some of the discussions going on, is it going to take 100 years before we do something, or are we going to move forward now? So anyway, I speak in support of the budget that's on the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Mrs. Kohler.
Nina Kohler, 168 Haley Road. Tom made most of my points. It always comes down to the state. We need another Shays Rebellion. We're going to go beyond Springfield this time. We're going to get all the way to the state house. And I know everybody goes, and I've been there many times when my kids were in school. My children had a joyous and fulfilling education at Mohawk, and my son was a merit scholarship graduating from Mohawk. It is our responsibility, no matter what the state chooses to do. And they have done a phenomenal job in creating this budget, and I don't wish to penalize our fantastic students and our fantastic staff. So let's woman up and do this.
I'll try my best.
Dagan Miller, 199 East Stonewall Drive, I live right behind Sanderson. I'm a current
Can you speak up, please?
Yeah.
Get a little closer to the mic. We can pull it out.
We'll do it. Thank you. Frank's not. Dagan Miller, 199 East Stonewall Drive. I live right behind the new Sanderson. The parent of two current students in the district. Both went through Sanderson and had a fantastic time. One's currently in Sanderson, 4th grade. One's in 8th grade in Mohawk. And I just want to say, for there are plenty of teachers, parents, staff in the room, former teacher, parents, staff. Our kids have loved it. It's been a fantastic education. There's small schools, there are challenges with small schools. I grew up in a very, very small school in a very small town where the town never passed the budget. And that was, that lack of good and confidence in me as a child, like that, lingers, right? And I'm thrilled with the quality of education our kids are getting, and with the heart that the staff has. So thanks to all the people who worked on that, and thanks to everyone who's kept the schools going. We moved here, and you moved here just before COVID. Thanks to everyone in the town who's kept the schools vital for decades. Right?
Thank you. Are we ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 9 school expenses as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Any abstentions? It was not unanimous, however, it does pass by majority vote. Superintendent, thank you. I love how you dress. Okay, one more time. Whoa, I'm losing everybody. I want to make sure that the people on the flanks are people who are not registered voters of Ashfield, and that any registered voter of Ashfield is in these two lines. I should have done that before I called the vote. Article 10, is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Goodman.
I move Article 10 as written.
Second? Second. Mr. Lennox, seconds. Please.
You want me to start with this before I hand it off to our town administrator, but this is some changes to the FERCOG charter. If you don't know what FERCOG is, it's the Franklin County Regional township governments, and they basically help with a lot of kind of regional services. So it was created in the 1990s, and it has a strong kind of founding document, but it hasn't been updated in a long time. And so a group of people, a group from town, we had a few representatives on there who sat down with other representatives from other towns and tried to look into updating the document. So I'm going to hand it over to Paul.
And before we do here, there are handouts here that explain what this motion is about. Our town administrator, please.
Thank you. As Steve said, the FERCog was founded in the 1990s as county governments were starting to dissolve across the state. It has a really good, creation document, has not been changed in that time. Just to give you an idea of kind of the longevity of this, FERCog in all of its existence has had one executive director. A lot of people stay there for 20, 30 years, and the reason that we're trying to do this update now is that some of these people who have been there are getting close to retirement, and they'd rather make these changes now versus with an entirely new group of people. Over the years, they found that some things that were great 20, 30 years ago just are not as easy to come by now, such as membership to the FERCog Council, which is the legislative body. Originally, it was you want to select board, or I should actually say selectmen back in the day. Now, select board members, but quite a few towns actually choose to send their town administrators, administrative assistant. I think one town actually sends its tax collector because she's been there since the foundation of it. So I and I don't know if he's here, Bill Perlman, we were two members of this committee. There's only about 6 or 7 of us on it, so Ashfield was the only town that got 2 representatives on it. And Bill was involved because he was on the executive committee for so long and knew a lot about the history of it. Some of the big changes involve changes to the regional planning board. Right now, the planning board actually gets 2 representatives for each town, one that's appointed by the select board, one that's appointed by the planning board, and I believe there's around 15 at-large seats. So it's a very large committee of about 70 members. They have a quorum of 12, and they've had a hard time reaching quorum. So there's clearly some needs to change the makeup of that body, especially because there's a lot of towns that haven't always been able to fill their seats. So like with the new system, it's planned that the planning board is going to be a lot smaller and made of people who are really more passionate and interested in planning. It's an advisory committee. So there's that. Like I said, some of the changes involve making the eligibility on the council a little bit more open. So that it's not going to be wide open. They still want people who are involved with town government, select boards, finance, town administrators. They don't just want any random person off the street because some problems they faced were some Joe Schmo went in and never brought any information back to the town. So they want to at least make sure the person is involved in town government. There's some more flexibility on the executive committee. Right now, we only allow 1 person from a town on there, and that has, so if somebody else gets elected, and there's 2 regionally elected, 2 from the council and 1 from the planning board. Well, if somebody's on the council and then somebody gets regionally elected in the same town, the person on the council has to give up their seats. Now it's allowing that you can have up to 2, because people have been kicked off in the past that way, and it's hard to find volunteers. Just gives a little bit more authority to the executive director who gets to hire the staff. There's actually mechanisms in place so that that towns can join or leave FERCog. Even though it's the Franklin Regional Council of Governments, it's not actually legally limited to Franklin County. With the dissolution of Hampshire COG a few years ago, who knows, maybe there are some towns along the border that might be interested in having these services. And it just changes the threshold for future charter changes from 2/3 a vote and 2/3 of the town to a simple majority vote, 2/3 of the town, just to make it easier. That's one of the reasons why they waited so long to make these changes, because it's a big undertaking. So just want to make it a little bit easier to get those changes.
Thank you. Does it say in the proposed amendments to Joe Schmo? Is that just, no?
John Doe, sorry.
All right, great. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee? No recommendation from the Finance Committee. Thank you. Discussion. This will require a 2/3 vote. We'll hear the vote first and decide whether or not we can ascertain whether it's 2/3 or going to have to count, or whether we should count. It's going to be easy.
I'll leave that East Bear River Road. I'm curious about the provision that allows towns not in Franklin, formerly known as a county, to join. And I'm wondering if that's primarily because of purchasing advantages, or would there also be additional requests for FERCog assistance? I know FERCog has been, a number of people who work with them have been very helpful on various grants and proposals here for Ashfield. But will those towns also then be able to take advantage of those professional assistance?
So right now, there are a lot of programs with the FERCog that are open to non-resident, non-county towns at the moment. I think the purchasing program, I want to say around 50 towns actually participate in that. To get cheaper rates on things like road paving and salt and those things. I think the idea is that FERCog is kind of unique in that it's both a regional planning organization and it's a regional council of governments. I believe we're actually the only ones in the state that have a dual role. There are towns like in Berkshire County, Berkshire Regional Planning Commission. In Hampshire, you've got the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission. They're great organizations. I'm not bashing them in any way, shape, or form, but they provide more limited services to their member towns simply because that's their role to play. They are not, regional councils of government. So I think the idea is that these other towns may, at some point, could be 20 years, could be never. They may seek to gain some of these services and input. So it's just offering a mechanism. There was actually no mechanism in place for a town to withdraw either. But the problem is that since we are that dual role, every town in the state has to be part of a regional planning organization. So there's no way to say, oh, well, you're going to withdraw from the Council of Governments, but not the plan. It got a little confusing. So this one, it just makes it so that you have to withdraw from both, and that's going to take a legislative act, and the same thing with joining. Just in case, who knows, we don't know where the future of these other planning organizations are going, especially with the current federal funding climate. But I think the idea is just to give that option for other communities should they find that it's a good fit for them and the county decides that it's a good fit for us.
Thank you, it's very helpful. I'm also interested in why towns might choose to withdraw. Is it primarily because of the cost associated, or are there other reasons?
I'm guessing it probably wouldn't be cost, because in the grand scheme of things, but I think it's pretty efficient, in my personal opinion. I have not experienced this personally, but I've heard in the past there have been some more contentious issues. I can't give you an example, I was not there. That's why some of these original petitions were in place about limiting to one town. They didn't want control by, I feel like FERCog is really become a much more collegial atmosphere. So, but there could be a town that just says for whatever reason they either don't want these services, don't need these services are too expensive, or maybe they can get a better deal elsewhere. I can't give you a specific, I don't think any town has ever threatened to withdraw, but we at least want to have that provision in case, who knows we're hoping that this is going to be the last revision for a while, so we want to plan for the next 25, 30 years.
Thank you, Mr. Sessions. Any other questions on Article 10? We ready to vote? This will require a 2/3 majority. We passed the bylaw in 2018 that allows the moderator to call whether or not he's satisfied 2/3 on a voice vote. If 7 or more people, and I will ask, disagree with what I rule as far as whether it passed by 2/3 or not, then we'll have a count. If less than 7, then I call the vote. Settle the issue. So, all those in favor of Article 10 as moved, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Well, that was close. So, that's good. Thank you very much. That was a good discussion. Article 11. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Clerk?
I move Article 11 as written. Second.
Second by Mr. Good. Talk to us, please.
Yeah, this is on your list. You'll see the entire list of expenses and what accounts they go to as they appear for general government and the budget. We do a great job of moving things around, right? So nobody can really keep track of it from one year to another. But it is an increase in general government over a year ago. But some of the really serious drivers on this, Mrs. Carter reminded me to bring my glasses. It's a $127,000 increase in general government. The big drivers on that is what Mr. Martins talked about at the beginning, right? At the very beginning, is volunteers, having volunteers, and things getting so complicated that we need some professional help. So salaries for the conservation agent, for a professional to work with the planning board, very important. There's a $20,000 increase for the energy committee to get them some professional help to move forward on their projects. I am happy to report that none of the increase has to do with increased stipends or salaries for the select board members. But we've gone through this with the finance committee several times, trying to figure out, I mean, it's not a light decision when we're talking about adding a position or having to hire more professional staff. It was a difficult discussion for me when years ago when we were talking about $5,000 or $6,000. Now when we're adding $20,000 line items, I stuttered. Anyway, that gives you a quick rundown on the big hitters on this. Of course, some of the salary and pay increases are incorporated into this also. So, hope that helps.
Thank you. Is there a recommendation for our finance committee?
Yes, we recommend this article unanimously, and we did have a lot of discussions about it. I can confirm that. So, yeah, we all agree.
Thank you, Laura. Carol.
Carol, from I just have a question on the facilities manager. I don't understand what it means that that person will just tell other people what to do and maybe do minor repairs. So we'll pay $20,000 for somebody to say that we need a roof on the back house of the lake or the barn painted. I mean, I don't, can you give more detail about what that facility manager position is going to be?
Mr. Carter.
Yeah, good question. That was one of the ones that I overlooked, not intentionally. We have had a long history of qualified people being volunteered to keep track of our buildings, right? Great assets in town. The town hall, the library, the park. And we have debated, and we've had this discussion for several years, right? Is that we asked all these volunteers and it turns into a bigger project and it needs a more critical eye and someone to make it all happen. And we have been very fortunate over the years, and especially recently, with Mary Quigley putting in so much time to give other volunteer boards a little direction, a little help on making decisions on what needs to be done. At some point, we're not, and the point is here, that we have to hire somebody that has some background, that has some technical expertise, that can spend some time really looking at not just maybe a quick fix, but what would be a better long-term solution to some of these problems. I mean, we have beautiful, beautiful, ancient, high-maintenance buildings, right? And the $20,000 investment in a facilities manager to go around and be responsible and report to the select board and work with all the other committees, right? I mean, the town's really an octopus, and there's volunteers, and certainly for the amount of money that we have invested and could be investing in buildings like the one we're in right now, having someone we can rely on, we just can't find the volunteers to do it. I just don't see a lot of people raising their hand to spend the time that Mary's been spending. There's a
Well,
lot of
I
activity.
just wanted to make sure, Mr. Carter, that you answered Ms. Carroll's concern. She was wondering whether the facility manager just oversees what other people do, or does she actually do stuff?
We don't have any applicants at this time, but, you know, you can put out an application, and you don't always get exactly what you want, right? But we're looking for someone who can do some work and give recommendations on what the next move will be.
Follow up, okay.
And yeah, because it says in here minor repairs, so I just wanted to get some kind of an idea of what the difference is with that position and doing what's minor repairs cover.
So, I'm not being evasive, but a lot of it's going to depend on the candidates we have and the ones that we can find that are capable of doing repair A or repair B, and may have to bring somebody else in for the rest of it.
And then would repair A or repair B be money going towards that person above and beyond the 20,000?
So every department has a maintenance budget, right? So it's just how well do we carry out that those maintenance dollars being employed. It's not like we're putting money into a maintenance manager or facilities manager and cutting out all the maintenance money and figuring it's going to happen now.
Mr. Lennon.
So let me give you some examples that might help understand, okay? So when we thought about trying to backfill some of these volunteer positions, depending on what work needs to be done, let's say that a door needs to be replaced. Now I know that none of us have ever replaced the door in our house without pulling the proper permit. Right? In order to do so, in a public building, you have to have a construction license. So finding someone that has a construction license, who also needs to do maybe plumbing work, right? None of us have ever done plumbing work at our own house without hiring a plumber, a licensed plumber, to pull that permit, because it's not allowed. So we don't do that. We hire a licensed plumber. So we have to find a construction person, a plumber. What happens if an electrical problem arises? We can't fix it ourselves. You have to have a licensed electrician. So trying to find an individual person to do it for $20,000 a year, who has a license in construction, plumbing, and electricity, I'd be quicker to find a unicorn. It would be a lot quicker to find a unicorn than someone who could do all those kinds of things in one person, right? So this position is like Mary would do. Fortunately, she had a contractor's license, so she was able to do a lot of things through volunteering at cost. Things like replacing doorknobs and so forth, you can do that on your own. Replacing windows, that's a whole different ballgame. But someone who has enough expertise to realize that this is a plumbing project that will require a licensed plumber, let's make a contract and get that work done. This is a problem that needs someone with a construction license to replace the roof on the bathhouse. Let's make sure we hire the right person. So far we've had a wonderful string of volunteers that have done that work for us. We're hopeful, we'd love to have the next volunteer step forward to do, how many years, Mary, have you been volunteering in town? She's doing this. We'd love to have that next person rise up in the community and do that, but it's not forthcoming at this point.
Sorry, I'm still just a tiny bit confused, and especially because I'm on the park commission. And we do have a lot of things come up that we need to fix, period. Some are small, some are big. We have a list of people who we go to fix those things. So,
All licensed contractors, I'm sure.
yes. So are you saying that the town can't have a list that any committee can go to, that particular plumber or electrician or whoever those people are, and then have a licensed person come and fix their issues? And I'm just not sure where the $20,000 comes in to pay somebody to say, okay, make sure that you have a licensed person to turn on and off the water in the bathroom at the Lake Deputy Trust. I mean, we do go to a licensed plumber, but I don't understand where, I'm just a little confused with this.
Mr. Marcos.
So we got from Ms. Quigley a list of the number of hours that she spent. And in her current stipend, I think it came out to about 50 an hour. And we took those number of hours times some reasonable dollar amount per hour in the $20, $25 an hour range. It's literally the amount of hours that Mary spent for basically for free at a reasonable rate that someone could. By the way, $20,000 gig, it's going to be hard to find somebody who's willing to come for a $20,000 gig with no benefits and all the rest of it. So that's how we came up with, how we circled around the number of based on actual hours times the reason for it.
I'm not sure about
I'm sorry, you can ask me.
Okay.
So Mr. Goodgen is ready to speak.
Yeah, I'm not, so basically what we're looking at, you could look at this position as possibly being like a clerk of the works. This is somebody who's going to take an inventory of all of our buildings, talk to the people who run those buildings, or basically those buildings all the time, and get a list going of the work that might need to be done, and then just look at what that maintenance might need to be going forward. This person might, if you need somebody over at the bathhouse or something to replace something, a board, well, it's some kind of simple stuff, a board that's a loose board or trim on something, this person would hopefully be qualified to be able to do that kind of basic work. But what they're going to be doing is helping, say, on town hall, stuff that Mary and other people have been doing for years, to come in and they can coordinate any work that might need to be done on town hall, whether it's replacing a door or whether it's any plumbing or electrical work. So this person is going to be the person to coordinate that versus someone like the town administrator who has really other things they need to be doing versus worrying about the maintenance on the building and how that's going to get done and contract that out.
Okay, Ms. Carroll.
I'm sorry, I still don't understand the separation, but I thought, Mary, what you did was a lot of fixing of things.
Could you stay on the
I thought that Ms. Quigley did a lot of actual fixing of things.
Yes.
But you're saying now that this person, see, the part that I don't understand is what things is this person going to fix and what things are they just going to tell you you have to fix?
Well, I think that in Mary's case, that she was doing a lot of fixing herself because she has a lot of skills and she was able to kind of step in and do that.
Right.
So this person would probably scale-wise be able to do some of this work up to the scale that, let's say, one person with some basic tools could do that work. And then once the scope kind of goes beyond that, or is outside their specialty, like they need to be a licensed electrician or a licensed plumber, or have some kind of specialty like that, but they would then bring those services, coordinate, bring those services in.
Mary,
And that's exactly what Mary's been, what Mary's been doing for years. So it's helping, contacting electricians when we need to have electricians in here, contacting plumbers when we need to have a plumber in here, doing what she can herself, because she has skills, and then, yeah.
Okay, so let me just give you
well, no, hang on. Mary, quickly, would you like to come up and speak to the question that's being asked? The question is the balance between doing stuff and overseeing stuff. If you would approach the microphone and very quickly, who right now serves in that facilities manager position and is our town hall steward.
I've been advocating that somebody take my place for a while. And
Close to the mic, please.
okay, closer. I tell everybody else to do it. I think this position is needed. If you could, so it could be a higher level position where someone is working with subcontractors, and helps organize the lists that go on the capital requests and the regular budget. But it's also, when I get a call at 7 o'clock in the morning, or 7:30 really, and it says town hall, I wonder whether Lynn found the furnace off or the toilets overflowing. And somebody needs, if there isn't a facilities manager, the next call is going to be directly to the heating company, and they charge $200 on New Year's Eve when we had this problem. They charge $200 to take the call before they even, touch anything. That's their fee. But it turns out we could we could fix it. Yeah, we did, and we had heat for the next day. It was just and working with the library, I think it's unfair. We've got really good department heads who are really good at doing their library work, doing their highway work, being town administrator, to think that they need to have the skills to take care of their own buildings. And if they have somebody they can call to say, this is, what do you think? This roof is leaks, but it's only in the snow. What do you think we should do? And help triage things. I think we will save money by having somebody in this position.
Thank you.
And one thing.
Please.
Get a call because a couple of the band members who practice on this stage every other Tuesday night can't get up there because there's no handrails. And so I got a call and say there's no handrails, and we have handrails so these people can get up there. Now we have handrails, but it was like we were trying to wait for a grant for a lift, and it's like, who knew we didn't have handrails for those 4 steps? Now we need, it's those things. That takes 3 or 4 hours to figure out and make handrails. And we don't call a licensed contractor and get a bid for it, or have 3 consults. It's just, some things are just common sense.
Thank you very much. Ms. Carroll, do you have anything new that we haven't heard?
But I'm just trying to understand this because I am in this position a lot and will be in this position a lot, so I just want to know if something breaks at the beach and we can't fix it, should we call this person and say, please figure out who to send in to fix it? Or should we just call the right person to fix it?
Mr. Moderator. Okay, so this, I'm trying to understand your concern. This is not going to take away the autonomy of the Parks Commission to call in their own licensed contractor to do whatever work the Parks Commission needs to do. You have a budget for maintenance, do it. If you need additional help, additional technical assistance, another set of eyes, you could call on this person to help out, okay? There are facilities in town, like the town hall, where there isn't a person who is necessarily there are no volunteers everybody's on payroll here, they have their own dedicated job. They don't necessarily have the bandwidth to think about the roof on the town hall. They don't have the bandwidth to think about what does the HVAC system need, right? It's not their area of expertise. They don't have a background in it. They don't have a general understanding of these kinds of things. This position would be a person that would have some general understanding, some background to be able to ascertain what could be done in-house and what needed to be done.
I understand that that's a good answer to the question because I'm really going to be in this position a lot. And I just need to know what I have to follow.
Yes.
That's really all.
Either path,
Thanks.
whatever gets the job done.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell.
Wayne Farrell, Whitney Acres. That was one of my questions I was going to ask too, so I'm glad that it got down to creating a new position within the town employees. But another part of my $114,000 question is contracted services, $83,695. Could we get some kind of an explanation what this may cover? Because it's the second highest line item on here above your all salary, after your all salary, I should say. Contracted services.
So, I don't
Mr.
have
Goodgen.
the exact list.
Doesn't have to be
So
exactly.
it involves a whole bunch of different things. We basically taken the contracted services items out of each department and basically put them all into one budget item. So, contracted services, everything from, some accounting, sewer, wastewater support, copiers, let's see, IT, financial advisor, accounting software, it's just like all kinds of things outside of what we hire individuals to do. And so over the years, they were like separated out into each department, and we just kind of brought them all together for one, which is why it was so big at this point.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell. Ms. Howell. You can bend that right down.
Judy Halbach, this Spruce Corner Road. I have a comment and a question. The comment was several years ago, Parks asked Select Board and Finance to fund a park manager position. So they agreed, and we put in our budget for a $10,000 park manager position. And it actually amounted to, they're making $17.50 an hour, less than what we were paying our lifeguards. We had no applicants, and this was a position that would be for a jack of all trades. So that was removed from our budget and returned to the town. Just a little history. So I am definitely in favor of this $20,000 allocation for a town facility. The second comment I have is the last expense, town common maintenance of $9,800. Now you can look out at the size of the town common. It costs Parks, our whole mowing and weed whacking, $10,000 a year. I am questioning why are we paying almost $10,000 for the town common? This came up last year, and I questioned it then, and it's still on the budget.
It is $2,300 under the general category and $7,500 for snow removal.
So that includes snow removal too. So it says town common maintenance, but it's like sidewalks and other things like that. So it's not very specific in that.
And that's usually done by volunteers.
Snow removal out in front of the town hall.
Thank you, Ms. Howell. Mr. Kohler.
Ron Kohler, Bailey Road. Just before we lose sight of it, I'd just like to personally thank Mary for what she has done for this town. I have worked with her directly on so many things, and she never said something like, I don't have the hours for this. She was always there, every time in the background, she was stewarding things the way very few people would be able to do it. Having her background as a contractor, I remember many occasions where she said, well, I can't get this plumber, but we'll try this one. I've got a good relationship with her. So having a person who is available, who has a contractor background, access to a phone book of different people out there was just so valuable. And this town really benefited from Mary. So I just want to say thank you, Mary.
Are we ready to vote on Article 11, General Government Expenses? Yes, yes, yes. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Article 12. Our vote. Mr. Lamb.
I move Article 12 as written.
Second. Second by Mr. Carter.
Talk to us, please.
Yes, this is our public safety article, including everything from police, fire, ambulance, emergency management, animal control, and tree warden. And encompasses all of those different aspects and departments in the town. The budget for this year, the delta on it from last year is actually down a little bit. Not because we don't want to spend more of your money, but because we tried last year to hire an additional full-time police officer, and we were unable to find a viable candidate. The police reform that happened in the state a few years ago now, while may have been necessary and a good thing, it changed the training requirements and it changed the dynamics of how forces are structured in, watching me carefully, I'm not advocating for anything, it's on the ballot.
You're perfect.
Okay.
I'm actually listening.
It's made it virtually impossible to find part-time officers. The officers have to go through extensive training, much more training than was required before reform. It essentially turns all officers into full-time officers. Full-time officers do not really want to patch together a full-time career by being part-time officers in multiple towns. We've benefited from having many part-time officers on our staff in the past to put together schedules. Our police chief does an outstanding job in covering this town, but at this point, she does it virtually by herself. She has one additional officer on staff, her sergeant, who is very committed to her, happens to be her husband. If he wasn't, I don't know if we'd be able to find additional part-time help. And our chief has been outstanding in holding it together. I'm sure it's been very stressful for her. So we're trying to find solutions. We're trying to figure out how we can move forward with a level of service in the town that townspeople hope to have, that I know our chief wants to provide. However impossible that might be to do as a one-person show. So she's presented ideas to us about regionalization. It's an intriguing idea. It's something that the select board has been talking about for different aspects over time. You've heard about changes to the school regionalization. You've heard about changes, maybe you haven't. People have been talking about emergency services regionalization since before I came on the board. a dozen years ago. Right now, we have a regional ambulance service that is excellent in Highland. So that's an example of a regional public safety service that does an outstanding job. We're trying to imagine how we could move forward and make it sustainable and keep a high level of service. And this is an idea that we're, at the chief's encouragement, I would say, trying to explore. Now that we're through budget season and we can refocus a little bit of our time on important issues, I'm hoping that we can take a closer look at this and see if we can figure out a way to continue to provide service for our town, not have to rely on state police coverage when we don't have our own coverage, and move forward with it. But that's why the budget is a little bit less than flat from last year. It's not because we don't want to spend more money, it's because we don't have people to spend it on, additional people, to help fill out those services. So that's where public safety is right now. So I think that was a long, rambling message, but Tom liked it. We were conferring earlier today when y'all were having your debate on the school budget, and the three of us agreed that we were not in the smart kids class. So we're just doing the best we can. And we grew up in the area of bullying, toilet swirlies, and atomic wedges. So that's what we have to survive, and we're just up there trying to survive.
Is there a recommendation on this article from the Finance Committee? Did I fail to ask? I'm sorry.
We recommend Article 12 unanimously.
Thank you. Sorry. Okay, yes, any questions, comments? Ms. Schwartz.
Seriously, I'm just looking at the tree warden stipend versus the tree warden expense. I just like some clarification. Is that hiring, is the tree warden, like the tree needs to be cut, are they cutting it, or what are the expenses for? Can you get a breakdown? Are they hiring someone else? What's going on?
Yeah, so tree warden expense is always woefully underfunded. The work that covers is if an actual arborist would have to come in to take down a tree. That work is very expensive. It's a specialized skill that no one on our highway department has. None of them know how to climb trees. We don't have bucket cranes that can go up and do that kind of specific work. If anyone's ever had trees removed at their house or what have you, it's an expensive process with specialized skills. If you've had trees removed, you know that $12,000 does not go very far, but every year there are always trees that need to come down around our infrastructure.
So it's for the specialists?
Correct.
Thank you, Ms. Schwartz. Yes.
About 439 West Road. And I was just wondering.
I think it's off.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Based on what you're talking about with the dilemma with the part-time police officers, is there anything in the budget for like a discretionary line item where if you were to find somebody to fill that position, that could happen?
It's not, but we have ways.
Sounds like a godfather.
If you need protection, we can get you
You're not Chief Designer. Thank you for being here, by the way, Chief Designer. Any other questions or comments about public safety expenses before we vote? You got something else?
We're talking about tree warden expense. A lot of times our tree warden will coordinate with Eversource or the power companies to get them to do work for free for us. So it's $300 well spent.
Thank you. All right, ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 12, public safety expenses as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Article 13, is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Goodgen.
I move Article 13 as written.
Second.
Who seconded it? Mr. Lennox seconded it. Talk to us.
So this is our public works, so all our highway stuff. And so I will point out that we're talking about winter sidewalk expense. So we're just talking to Paul about that. So this sidewalk expense here is sidewalks only. Just for somebody asked, when that last bit that was on the Town Common a couple articles ago, that is the mowing and then it's snow removal for all around Town Hall, and also has to do with snow removal around fire hydrants in town also. So just to break those two things out. Other than that, I'm not sure if people have questions on it. It's pretty straightforward.
I'm sorry. Is there a recommendation from the Finance Committee?
We recommend it unanimously.
Recommended unanimously. Thank you.
Mary Cordell, Lawson's was turned around. I hope we're not double paying the fire hydrant people because the water district pays for the hydrants to be shoveled out.
Just to clarify, the hydrants that he's referred to these are hydrants located around town for the fire department to access. I think there's one up behind Decker's. I think there's one over on these dry hydrants. These are the ones that they go throughout town, not here on Main Street, not the little hydrants that you see all over the world. These are.
I think we should double check because we pay a snow removal company to shovel it.
Mr. Poisson. Thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Bell. Tom Poisson, our highway super.
So she is correct that the water district does pay for some snow removal around hydrants, but those are the hydrants that are connected to the water system that the water district operates. The hydrants that we're talking about here are hydrants such as the two dry hydrants that go into the lake, or up at on Holly Road there's one on West Road that goes into a private pond, so they're not the water district hydrants, these are
I still think we should double check them because.
Yeah, it's really important that we maintain order and that we maintain a recording so that you're asked to be recognized, and I will recognize you, but we're not going to be calling out.
So the quick answer is that these hydrants that we're talking about, the snow removal on, are not the water district hydrants. These are separate.
Yeah, and Ms. Gravel just asked, so we double check to make sure that we know what the answer to that is. It sounds like we do. Please.
Hi, Peyton Fleming, I live on Smith Road. I'm curious about the transfer station expenses. I know in prior years when it was all up to Phil to monitor everything, things were sometimes a little loosey-goosey, and this is nothing against Phil at all. It's just too many stations and too many illegal tires coming in and creating great costs for the town. I was wondering if there have been any improvements in that regard since you brought in another person and tried to sort of ratchet down some of the procedures and so forth. Whether there have been savings from that?
I wouldn't say have savings, we're better tracking at this point, especially with our new system that we put in a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago now, with being able to sell and track exactly what's going on there with the new punch card system. Also, just the new layout of the facility makes it way easier to keep things organized. We've had the second attendant there, which allows basically during downtime for both of them to go out and make sure things are situated the way they need to be. And it seems, at least from my personal, I know experience, to really be operating pretty well, really well.
So it's fair to say expenses, it's helped to control expenses?
Yeah.
Or costs?
Yeah, I mean, I think they were basically running more efficiently, which is hopefully we'll have to see with tracking going forward what that means. But, I mean, expenses go up and down with that a lot every year, depending on hauling, the value of certain recyclables. So those numbers can be all over the place. Thank you.
Good question, thank you. Any further questions or comments? You good now? Are we ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 13, Public Works Expenses as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Article 14, is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Carter.
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 14 as written.
Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Goodman. Please.
Just as a reminder, if any of you folks want to join in and second some of these, we don't have to do them all. So this is the Health and Human Services expenses. The driver of this article really is the senior center, the district expense. So in the past, we've just kind of joined in with Buckland and Shelburne. Now it's going to be a true district. Shelburne did all the administration and so forth for the senior center, since the senior center wasn't Shelburne. We've worked 5 years, 4 years anyway, right? And on July 1st, it's going to turn over from the organization we had before to a true district. So there's representation, active representation from Ashfield, Buckland, and Shelburne. The finances will be separate. Hopefully over time we'll be able to attract more grants and that sort of thing. But to be more in tune with active representation to maybe improve services, right? That's really the goal, is to try to improve services to what we need in Ashfield. So in July 1st, we're going to go to the district. It's its own entity, so we have to supply, the district's going to have to fund its own financial accounting services and that sort of thing, apart from the town of Shelburne. And that the increase in senior services really is tied mostly to that.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. This is the recommendation by the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee recommends unanimous.
Thank you very much. Discussion? Questions, comments? Are we ready to move? Yeah. I'll vote. Article 14. All those in favor of Article 14 on Health and Human Services expenses as moved, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention. That passes unanimously. Article 15.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, Mr. O'Leary.
I move Article 15 as written.
Second.
Wait for it.
Second, third, fourth, fifth. Okay. Please explain.
Is there anyone here on the Library Board of Trustees who can explain what Sam, you want to take a crack at? No? This is the library, this is the budget that the Library Board of Trustees
Mr.
presented
Carter,
to
could
the
you
town.
come to the microphone, please?
Yeah.
Jane Carter, Main Street Library Trustee, hopefully up until 4 o'clock this afternoon. I think it's relatively self-explanatory. I hope everybody in this room would wholeheartedly agree that we have an exceptional library in this town. It's a true asset, and worth every single penny that we have written here. In the expenses, there's nothing out of line. We have to maintain a certain amount of library expense according to our town appropriation. We have to, another state recommendation or state mandate is that we have to spend a certain percentage of what you give us on the library expense. We are in the middle of doing a number of projects, like we'll be talking a little bit later about putting $20,000 towards
improving potentially hooking up to the sewer, which they didn't do when the sewer went through, and also maintaining our driveway, paving the driveway. But this part of the budget is just our everyday expenses.
Thank you. For those who don't know, Mrs. Carter is in very hours of her long tenure of the library. She's done everything from MoDOT on to, well, nothing she hasn't done. And so later we'll recognize her and thank her. Yes, Mr. Cole.
David Cole, Phillips Road. I am speaking in support of this article, but I just want to put an idea in folks' head for next year. The Cultural Council expense, I believe, is just a pass-through of $2,000 that we get from grants from the state for Cultural Council. My experience being on the Cultural Council is that we get many wonderful grant applicants, and that money goes to lots of great events and so on. And $2,000 is a very small amount, and we end up funding very few people. And I think just adding another $2,000 in our budget would be a relatively very minor thing that would add significantly to the cultural impact that we could have on our town. So I would encourage us in the future to think about augmenting the state's money with some additional generosity from ourselves.
And that's for the future you're talking about, yes, not for today's work.
This is actually $2,000 from the town budget we're putting into this. This is new this year.
Oh,
So
it is?
this isn't just a pass.
Somebody read my mind.
This is on top of any grant money that they might receive and expend.
Fantastic.
So they came to us with a really good, idea and proposal, and they do a lot of great work, so.
They do.
You asked, we delivered.
No, he thinks you delivered.
That's right.
Thank you. Go. Anything else? Any other questions or comments? You good? You ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 15 as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That's unanimous. It's 10 of. I will ask you how long you should go in 10 minutes. But right now we're going to go to Article 16. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Goodrich.
I move Article 16 as written.
Second.
Who was it who seconded? Thank you. Karen. Okay, please.
So this is money that we have for our outstanding debt servicing. So currently we have the highway garage, which we'll be paying on, believe it or not, until 2045. So we're paying on that still. The other $10,000 in there is just, we put that in there in case we need to borrow money for some reason during the year that we have to plan for. That basically sets us up to be able to pay for any debt we might take on that.
Thank you. Is there a recommendation, Ms. Carter?
We unanimously recommend Article 16.
Recommend the article. Discussion? Questions? Comments? Vote? Let's vote. Article 16. All those in favor? As moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Article 17, intergovernmental assessment expenses. Do we have a motion?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Carter.
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 17 as written.
Is there a second? Mr. Wright. This is all your fault.
Now it's getting interactive and fun. Thank you for doing that. So this is all pretty straightforward. We talked about FERCog, about the services. This gives you a good idea of the services they supply for procurement, to radio maintenance, to inspections, all of those things that we lean on the Franklin Regional Council of Governments for. Relatively unchanged, really, from a year ago.
Recommendation from the Finance Committee?
We recommend unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Martin. Questions, comments, discussion? Ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 17 as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Article 18. Is there a motion?
I move Article 18 is written.
Second by Mr. Carter. Thank you, Mr. Atlantic. Please talk to us.
Yes, Article 18 represents all of our employee benefit expenses. The retirement system, the insurance being the highest line item there at $172,000. Insurance premiums this year have gone up 18 to 20%. We do belong to the Hampshire County Insurance Group Trust, trying to explore ways to try to mitigate insurance increases like this, but this is the reality that we live in. Insurance costs just jumped like crazy this year.
Thank you. Is there a recommendation to Finance Committee? Mr. Lisinski.
What do you know, the Finance Committee recommends it unanimous.
Thank you. Discussion? Questions? Comments? Ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 18, employee benefit expenses as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Article 19.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Goodgen.
I move Article 19 as written.
Second.
Second by Mr. Atlantic. Talk to us.
All right. So OPEB basically recovers future.
What does OPEB stand for?
Other post-employment benefits.
Thank you.
So, and it covers future retirees pre-funding that liability now as opposed to taking it in down the road. So this is something that we have not been putting money into for the most part over the years. It's currently not required under state law, but it seems likely to at some point in the future, and we're just trying to get ahead of this. It can also affect our ratings when we're looking our bond ratings going forward, so it can affect our borrowing ability, possibly. So our plan is to take this $30,000, which is about what we make in interest from our stabilization account fund, and put that into this account, this OPEB account, every year until it's where we want it to be. And I can't remember the year. What was the year? 30. Yeah, so.
Oh, you mean the pension?
Yeah. 2035. So about 10 years from now, we should have that account where we want it to be. So this is not going to affect direct, it's going to affect the budget, and then we're not making that, we're not going to be able to take that money out of stabilization. It's not growing stabilization, but we're growing the OPEB account just to keep up with it.
Thank you. Questions, comments?
Move the question.
Well, okay, if you have a motion, please just raise your hand, I'll recognize you, but it doesn't look like we have to move the question because nobody else has any questions or comments. I do want to add, this will require a 2/3 majority. I'm sorry, Mary?
There was a hand here.
I didn't see it.
Put it down. Very required.
I was going to move the question.
I think we're there anyway.
Okay.
This will require a 2/3 quantum in order to pass. Ms. Carter, Ms. Kine, how many registered voters have checked in? Under 26 of you. Thank you so much. Above. Thank you so much. Just in case we need it. So, yes.
That doesn't take into consideration.
Doesn't matter. All right, Mr. Carter was just saying, yeah, some of them left, so we have to count to find out if we achieve 2/3. We will count. We have coverage to do that. All right, all those in favor of Article...
Mr. Moderator?
I'm sorry, point of order, Ms. Pitter?
Just going to mention that the Finance Committee recommends.
Did I forget you again?
Unanimously, and to clarify that these are mostly health benefits for our retirees.
Thank you. Forgive me. All right, Mr. start again. We require two-thirds majority to pass this article. So all of those in favor of article, let's turn the page, article 19, as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? I declare two-thirds. Very good. We're going to go for another article, and then I'll ask you what you want us to do. Article 20, is there a motion?
Do I get to make the motion?
Please. Yes, please. Nancy Hobb, Sewer Commissioner.
Nancy Hobb, Sewer Commission, that's good. Nancy Hobb, Sewer Commission, and I move Article 20 is written.
Second.
We are actually offering a budget lower than last year. That is because we want to introduce that we have a new young operator, chief operator, Patrick Murphy. He's awesome. He is bright, he's energetic, he loves problem solving, of which we have many problems, and he's the new dad of twin boys. So he is a wonderful man, he communicates well, he gets the tasks done, he works very well with town hall people, which has been a problem for 5 years with before us, so we are happy to have Patrick aboard. The biggest thing going on with the sewer plant is we have aged out. It's finally happened. I've talked about this for 10 years. That we started as a green type of sewage deal, and now that lasted 5 or 6 years, and then we just became a regular sewer plant where we have to put a little of this and a little of that in. We don't need a greenhouse anymore, and it's aging. Panels fall out now and again. Things don't open up on the roof anymore automatically. So we knew this would happen, so I talked about this before. We applied for a grant with USDA. Other towns like Deerfield got one, Irving got one, and this was just to get the engineer. Ours got hung up because we couldn't provide all the figures they wanted, and because we didn't have a town accountant at the time. So our wonderful Paul McClatchy has handled this and dealt with all our whining about it. And they finally connected, and my understanding is he gave them what they asked for, and the next call was, well, would you also give us X, Y, and Z? So we're still floating and dealing with this, and I'm actually wondering if we will get it. One of their comments was, well, you have retained earnings, equivalent to free cash. We have our own money because we don't tax the town. This is everyone in the village who flushes the toilet pays for it. So we have very good retained earnings to figure 300,000 anyway. But we've been doing that nest egg knowing we would have to come up with $1 million or more to take care of things. So, oh no, you have too much money on hand. We maybe shouldn't give this to you. So anyway, I think we're going to get it by offering to kick in $5,000 or $6,000. So that's where we are on that one. So today we're just voting to keep the plant going, but I want to take this opportunity to give you an update. The other update is our plant can handle 20,000 gallons, and that's in writing with DEP. We aren't to go over that. If we go over that, it's called out of compliance. If we have to report or we get in trouble. So, I'm envisioning the next plant might have to be larger in some capacity, at least in storage capacity, because of climate change. We get a ton of runoff water into the system that hasn't gone through your house. It just happens. There are pipes under the road, all over the place, pipes into all the buildings. Things happen. We have done smoke tests, we've done dye tests to see where it is. It's very big. Our biggest idea is, and has always been, the bottom of Norton Hill. We all see water there often. There's a couple other places by Ricky Carroll and Wellspring House. So any of that water that's floating on Main Street is a potential for getting into our system. So
we will probably have to have a plant with more storage to stay in compliance. That's what's on our future, and I look forward to you passing this. Are there any questions?
Well, I'll ask that question.
You ask the question.
First, ask the finance committee. Your recommendation, Mr. Carter.
We recommend this unanimously. We also wanted to clarify the enterprise funds for the sewer and also for broadband are funds that are raised by the fees, as Nancy said, that people who use those services pay.
Okay. You stay here for a moment as well. Questions, comments? Ready to vote? Good job, Nancy. All those in favor of Article 20, the sewer and WWTP Enterprise Fund as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Thank you. It's being just a little after 1 o'clock. What's the meeting's desire? Do you want to continue on, or do you want to take a break for lunch and come back?
I got one more quick one.
One more quick one. Okay, let's go to our...
Mr. Moderator, I move Article 21 as written.
Second.
Okay, please talk to us.
So I'm very pleased to stand before you all today and offer a budget for a municipal light plant that's almost $200,000 less than last year, which sounds strange, but that's because this budget is based on, as was explained by Isla, these enterprise funds are based on the money that we take in and the money we spend.
Speak into the microphone.
The money that we take in and the money that we spend, and I'm happy to say that we paid off our debt fully, and as a result, by the fees that we currently take in of $85 a month is far in excess of our current expenses, and so the proposal in front of you means that the rates will be likely reduced by at least $20 a month, which means that you all will be paying not $65, not $85, but probably $65 a month going forward. And that will still allow us plenty of excess, which still means we have over $50,000 of additional surplus, plus $100,000 coming in from the federal government, which allows us over the next couple of years to build some excess. Our aim is about $500,000 for replacing the equipment, et cetera. And once we get there, we may be able to reduce the rates.
I am sure the finance committee is going to recommend against this one, right?
We recommend unanimously and thank David for all.
I'll email my thank you. All right.
We have to vote.
We have to vote, I know, I remember this slide. Any other comments or questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 21, Broadband Enterprise Fund as just moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Now, just do one more. What do you want to do? Lunch. Okay. Why don't we take a break? Can we get back here at quarter up? Is that all right? What? Everybody agree, quarter up? All right. We are suspended until quarter up. All in favor of suspending until 1:45, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.